People think it started in 2008, but that's not true. It started hundreds of years ago in the Renaissance, when banking itself started. A bank was originally just a bench in Italy. The banker would go out and sit there and lend money. Now, it's the Renaissance, so what were they lending money for? People were exploring. They were going to China and India. Sometimes the ships never came back. Well, the bankers wouldn't lend money if it was too risky, so they had to make sure they made their money back. They charged large sums of interest. So no matter what happened with the guy who goes off to India, the banker would get paid. Not only was interest and money lending used for exploration, it was used for science and art. So it allowed people, interest in this new fancy banking system allowed people to specialize. You got Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Let's pretend we're dealing with the very first bank in the world and the very first customer. So here's the bank, and here's customer number one, the first ever. And the customer goes to the bank because he wants to start a business and he wants $100 or lira or something. And the bank lends him the money. Well, why does the bank do that? What do they want back? Interest, more money. They want $105. All right, now, where does that other $5 come from? Well, some people think it comes from deposits. Well, no, because this is the first bank and the first customer, so there are no deposits. Nobody's deposited anything. So where that $5 comes from is the bank has to create it. In those days, they went to the printing press, boom, they write some, 5 on a piece of paper, and that's where it comes from. These days, it comes from the computer. The guy at the head of the Federal Reserve goes to the computer, and he presses a key, and you get $800 billion that way. And they really do that. So where the money comes from is, it's just loaned. It is money by fiat. That means that it's money because they say it's money. And that works as long as everybody believes it. And people have been believing it for hundreds of years. Imagine you're Wile E. Coyote in the cartoon, and you're running along a road on a mountain, and you run very fast, and you run off. Well, what do they do in the cartoon? They keep running. Until when? Until they look down. And they look down, and they think, oh my God, I'm not running on anything. There's just air, and that's when they fall. All right, that's a metaphor for the economy. It works as long as everybody keeps running. But as soon as people start to look down, that's when the economy collapses. And that's what has been happening. When interest first started in the Renaissance, all 3 major Western religions thought it was bad news, haram. Why? Because the guy lending the money, is he the guy doing the work? No. Is he the guy taking the risk? No. The other guy does the work, takes the risk, but the banker gets paid no matter what. Let's think about some other names for that. One name is a Ponzi scheme. So you say to the first guy, hey, how about you lend me $10 and tomorrow I'll give you 11. How does that sound? He goes for it. He lends me $10. Well, where am I going to get the 11 from? Okay, I go to the next guy. I say to him, how about you lend me $12, tomorrow I give you 14. And he says, wow, okay. He lends me $12. So what do I do with that $12? Payback guy number 1, pocket $1. So how does this work? Everybody's happy. It keeps going around. The problem is, it has to stop. There's one guy at the end who is left holding the bag. That's a Ponzi scheme. It's illegal. Mr. Ponzi went to jail. Well, guess what? We're all engaged in a Ponzi scheme. The whole economy is a Ponzi scheme. Now remember, we were talking about the bank, the first bank and the first customer. Okay, the bank lends customer number one $100 and then prints some more money, so customer number one pays back interest. Now we have $105. What does the bank do with that money? They lend it out to customer number two, who pays back interest. What do they do with that money? Lend it out. You get an infinitely expanding spiral. What is all that paper money? Money that says 5 or 20 or 20,000 on it. What does it depend on? It depends on real stuff. Now, some students say, well, but we have the gold standard. No, we don't. We're not on a gold standard. We're on a fiat currency standard. That means there's no gold backing the money. It's just a government promise. And it works as long as everybody trusts the government. But remember the little guy who was running along and then looked down? Well, people are starting to look down. The government was the ground that was under their feet. And when they look down and they see that the government's promise is nothing, then we all fall.